My dear sisters, there is a rhythm to a woman's life that the world rarely understands, a sacred balance between strength and softness, between striving and surrender. Every day we are pulled in 1,000 directions, to be enough, to do enough, to appear enough, but in that constant pull, many of us forget the quiet power that lies in the habits we nurture. You see, transformation doesn't begin in a single moment of inspiration. It begins in the quiet, ordinary moments. The ones no one sees. It begins when you choose discipline over comfort, gratitude over complaint, reflection over distraction. These daily habits are not just actions, they are seeds of inner peace, of confidence, of divine alignment. Today, I want to take you on a journey, not to become someone else, but to rediscover the woman you were always meant to be. Every woman must begin her journey toward true empowerment by cultivating the habit of self-awareness. It is not a destination, but a daily practice, a gentle returning to oneself in the quiet moments of the morning and the stillness of the night. Self-awareness is not merely knowing who you are. It is the courageous act of standing before the mirror of your soul and asking, who am I becoming? Too often, the world teaches women to measure themselves by external standards, by appearance, by achievements, by the validation of others. But a woman grounded in self-awareness knows that her worth is not a currency to be traded, but a truth to be remembered. When a woman becomes aware of her inner world, she begins to notice the silent dialogue that runs through her thoughts each day. She starts to recognize the tone she uses with herself. Is it harsh or compassionate? She becomes conscious of her habits, her triggers, and the invisible expectations she carries. She learns to pause before reacting, to breathe before speaking, and to reflect before judging. That awareness opens the door to transformation, because nothing changes until it is first seen. A woman who practices self-awareness lives intentionally. She no longer drifts through her days on autopilot, letting her emotions dictate her direction. Instead, she observes them, learns from them, and chooses her response with grace. This habit allows her to take responsibility for her life, not by blaming herself for what she cannot control, but by focusing her energy on what she can transform within. She learns that her emotions are messengers, not masters, that her thoughts are tools, not truths. When she practices self-awareness, she begins to hear the whispers of her intuition, the soft inner voice that the noise of the world often drowns out. She learns to honor her inner guidance, even when it leads her away from the familiar, even when it asks her to walk alone for a while. Self-awareness brings clarity, and clarity brings peace. Through it, she begins to understand her own rhythm, the times she needs to rest, the moments she needs solitude, and the spaces where she can bloom. This habit also helps her recognize her patterns of self-sabotage. She begins to see when she overextends herself trying to please everyone, when she says yes though her heart says no, when she hides her pain behind a smile, or when she stays silent to avoid discomfort. Self-awareness invites honesty, and honesty invites healing. It is through this lens that she learns to forgive herself, not because she is weak, but because she understands that growth is not perfection. It is progress, humility, and the willingness to begin again every day. A self-aware woman also learns to protect her energy. She realizes that not every battle deserves her strength, and not every opinion deserves her attention. She discerns between what is truly hers to carry and what belongs to others. In doing so, she reclaims her emotional freedom. She no longer seeks validation from people who cannot see her worth, nor does she chase after love that demands her to shrink. She knows that peace is more valuable than approval, and authenticity is more powerful than acceptance. Through the habit of self-awareness, a woman becomes deeply connected to her Creator. She begins to notice the divine signs that unfold in her everyday life. The way the sunrise reminds her of new beginnings, the way stillness brings her closer to truth, the way struggle refines her faith. She learns that awareness of self is ultimately awareness of purpose. When she understands herself, she understands the path laid before her. She begins to trust the timing of her life, knowing that even her detours are part of her design. This habit transforms her relationships as well. A self-aware woman communicates with empathy because she understands her own emotions and can honor the emotions of others without judgment. She listens to understand, not just to respond. She sets boundaries with kindness, not fear. Her presence brings calm because she is not reacting from chaos within, but from peace that she has cultivated through reflection. To practice self-awareness daily is to create sacred pauses in the rush of life. To journal your thoughts before bed, to sit in silence and ask yourself what your heart is truly feeling, to be honest about what needs to change. It's about living consciously, not just existing mechanically. It's about being awake in your own life, not sleepwalking through it. A woman who masters the habit of self-awareness becomes a light in her own world. She walks through challenges not as a victim of circumstance, but as a student of wisdom. She learns from every experience, both gentle and painful, and transforms them into lessons that deepen her understanding of herself and of life. Through awareness, she finds alignment with her values, her purpose, and her creator. She becomes whole, not because everything in her life is perfect, but because she is fully present in every imperfect moment, learning, growing, and awakening to the woman she was always meant to be. Gratitude is not just saying thank you with your lips. It is the language of a heart that sees blessings in both the sunshine and the storm. It is the posture of a soul that chooses to focus on what remains instead of what was lost, that remembers light even in moments of shadow. Every woman must master the habit of gratitude, for it transforms ordinary days into sacred experiences. It changes how she sees herself, how she moves through the world, and how she relates to others. Gratitude is the bridge that takes her from bitterness to peace, from comparison to contentment, from despair to hope. When a woman wakes up each morning and trains her eyes to notice the small miracles around her, the breath that fills her lungs, the softness of morning light, the sound of laughter from someone she loves, something begins to shift deep within her. She starts to realize that joy is not found in what she lacks, but in what she already holds. Gratitude teaches her that abundance is not about possessions, it's about perception. It's about realizing that what she has is already enough, and that what she carries inside her, the strength, the resilience, the compassion, is far greater than what she's chasing outside. A grateful woman stops living in the illusion of when. She no longer says, "I'll be happy when I get that job, when I lose that weight, when I meet that person." Instead, she learns to be happy now. She understands that the present moment is all she truly has, and it is sacred. Gratitude helps her stop waiting for her life to be perfect before she celebrates it. It teaches her to dance even when the music isn't ideal, to smile even when her heart is healing, to thank even when she doesn't understand. Because gratitude is not the denial of pain, it is the decision to still see goodness in the midst of it. Every woman will face days when things don't go her way, when people disappoint her, when plans fall apart, when the path ahead looks uncertain, but a grateful heart finds reasons to thank even then. Gratitude turns setbacks into lessons, rejections into redirections, and delays into divine protection. She begins to see that sometimes what doesn't work out is saving her from something she could not see. Gratitude gives her spiritual vision. It allows her to look beyond the immediate and trust that every event, every encounter, every heartbreak has purpose. When gratitude becomes a daily habit, it softens a woman's heart. It helps her see others with compassion because she becomes aware of how much she herself has been given. She learns to speak kinder words, to appreciate people instead of taking them for granted, to say thank you more often. Gratitude is contagious. It brightens homes, heals relationships, and deepens love. A grateful woman does not compete. She celebrates. She does not envy. She honors. She does not complain. She creates peace wherever she goes. There is something beautiful about a woman who carries gratitude even in silence. She may not always have everything she desires, but she radiates contentment. People are drawn to her because her presence carries calm. She does not need to prove anything. Gratitude gives her a quiet confidence, a kind of spiritual elegance that cannot be bought or imitated. It allows her to walk through chaos without losing her center, because she knows that peace is not the absence of problems, but the awareness of blessings. Practicing gratitude daily is simple yet powerful. It might mean writing down 3 things she's thankful for before bed, or whispering a prayer of thanks each morning. It might mean pausing during the day to notice the beauty of a moment, the kindness of a stranger, the warmth of her tea, the strength of her own heartbeat. These small acts of noticing build an unshakable foundation of inner peace. Gratitude rewires her mind to look for good, and what she looks for, she finds. A woman who lives with gratitude no longer defines her life by what she's missing, but by what she's made of. She becomes resilient because she understands that every challenge she has faced was a teacher, shaping her into the woman she is today. She stops resenting her past and starts blessing it, knowing that even her pain served a purpose. She begins to see beauty in brokenness, meaning in mistakes, and growth in waiting. Gratitude transforms suffering into wisdom. Through gratitude, she learns to live with an open heart. She receives the present moment fully and releases what she cannot control. She trusts that every day has something to teach her, something to give her. Gratitude becomes her daily prayer, her inner anchor, her quiet rebellion against negativity in a world that constantly tells her she is not enough. Gratitude reminds her that she already is. And when she walks with that kind of awareness, her life becomes a reflection of grace. She no longer needs more to feel whole. She simply recognizes the miracle of what she already has. Gratitude becomes her power, her peace, her guiding light. It becomes the rhythm of her soul, soft, steady, unshakable, and through it, she finds herself truly alive. Inner discipline is the quiet strength that shapes every great woman. It is not loud, not boastful, not something that seeks recognition. It is the inner alignment between what she believes and how she lives, between her values and her actions. A disciplined woman is not ruled by her emotions, her desires, or the shifting opinions of others. She is guided by intention and grounded by purpose. This habit does not come overnight. It is cultivated through consistency, through making choices that honor her future self, even when her present self feels resistance. Every woman desires success, growth, and fulfillment, but few understand that the foundation of all of these things is inner discipline. It is the bridge between intention and transformation. Without discipline, dreams remain just wishes, and goals remain unfinished prayers. Inner discipline is what turns vision into reality. It is the daily decision to rise even when tired, to stay kind even when tested, to choose what is right even when it is not easy. It is the art of self-mastery, the practice of leading oneself before trying to lead others. A disciplined woman understands that freedom does not come from doing whatever she feels like. It comes from doing what strengthens her spirit. She learns to say no, not because she is cold, but because she knows her boundaries. She says no to distractions that waste her energy, no to negativity that clouds her peace, and no to habits that steal her growth. Inner discipline teaches her that saying no to one thing is often saying yes to something greater. It helps her protect her purpose from being diluted by the noise of the world. This habit is not about perfection. It's about progress. It's about showing up for yourself even when no one is watching. It's about keeping promises to your soul. When a woman keeps her word to herself, she builds self-trust, and that trust becomes her power. Each small act of consistency, waking up on time, praying regularly, speaking kindly, finishing what she starts, strengthens her character. She no longer waits for motivation to move her because she has trained her will to act beyond feelings. A disciplined woman does not seek shortcuts because she knows that growth cannot be rushed. She understands that every season has its process and that maturity takes time. When others quit at the first sign of difficulty, she endures. She does not escape discomfort. She learns from it. She knows that resistance is a teacher. It builds her patience, endurance, and emotional stability. Discipline gives her the strength to stay the course when the excitement fades, to keep believing even when results are unseen. Inner discipline also shapes her thoughts. It teaches her to guard her mind, to be intentional about what she allows in. She knows that her thoughts create her reality, so she trains her mind to focus on what empowers her. Instead of dwelling on fear, she cultivates faith. Instead of complaining, she practices gratitude. Instead of comparing, she works on becoming. Her discipline in thought becomes the foundation for peace. Because she refuses to be a victim of her inner chaos. In her daily life, discipline brings order. She learns to manage her time with purpose, to prioritize what truly matters and to let go of what doesn't. She gives her energy to what nourishes her spirit, not to what drains it. She practices self-care not as indulgence, but as stewardship of the body and mind entrusted to her. Her days may not always go as planned, but her consistency in returning to alignment gives her strength to recover quickly. She becomes dependable, not only to others, but to herself. A disciplined woman is also emotionally mature. She does not allow anger to rule her or sadness to paralyze her. She feels deeply, but she is not consumed by what she feels. Discipline helps her regulate her emotions. She processes pain with wisdom, not impulse. She speaks with intention, knowing that her words carry weight. She does not react to everything that provokes her, because she understands that peace is far more valuable than proving a point. And perhaps the most profound form of discipline is spiritual discipline, the commitment to nurture her soul daily. She sets time to reflect, to pray, to realign her heart with what is eternal. Even when life gets busy, she protects her moments of stillness, because she knows that strength flows from silence. She does not wait for inspiration to connect with the divine. She creates that connection through devotion. Discipline in her spiritual life anchors her when everything else feels uncertain. There will be days when she fails, when she falls back into old patterns, when her strength feels insufficient. But a disciplined woman does not give up. She begins again. She does not condemn herself for slipping. She learns from it. Every stumble becomes a reminder of her humanity, and every recovery becomes a testament to her resilience. Discipline is not the absence of weakness. It is the decision to rise every time she falls. Through the habit of inner discipline, a woman becomes unshakable. She no longer depends on the approval of others to stay motivated. Her stability comes from within. She carries a quiet determination, a focus that cannot be easily distracted, a peace that does not fade with circumstance. Discipline gives her control not over life, but over herself. And that is the greatest strength of all. When a woman masters inner discipline, she becomes both soft and strong, soft enough to remain compassionate and strong enough to stay consistent. Her actions align with her purpose, her habits align with her faith, and her life begins to reflect harmony. She learns that discipline is not restriction, it is liberation. It frees her from chaos, from inconsistency, from self-doubt. It turns her potential into power, her vision into victory, and her life into a reflection of divine order. A woman who seeks knowledge becomes a woman who carries light. Knowledge is not just about collecting information or reading books. It is about awakening understanding, about expanding the mind and nourishing the soul. To seek knowledge is to recognize that wisdom is a lifelong journey, not a destination reached through a few lessons or experiences. Every woman who desires to grow, to lead, to heal, and to serve must cultivate the habit of seeking knowledge daily. For knowledge is the seed from which wisdom blossoms. There is a sacred beauty in a woman who thirsts for learning. She does not settle for ignorance, and she does not allow fear or pride to limit her understanding. She asks questions, not because she doubts, but because she desires depth. She listens, not to reply, but to comprehend. Her curiosity is holy. It keeps her spirit alive, her mind awake, and her heart humble. The habit of seeking knowledge is a form of worship because it acknowledges that there is always more to learn, more to unlearn, and more to become. A woman who seeks knowledge understands that ignorance is not innocence, it is a cage, And to step out of that cage, she must be willing to explore, to read, to reflect, and to challenge her own assumptions. She knows that wisdom is not loud. It whispers in moments of silence, in reflection, in humility. She values learning not only from books, but from people, experiences, and even mistakes. She studies her past, not with regret, but with discernment, seeing in every chapter a lesson that was meant to shape her character. Seeking knowledge also means guarding the mind from falsehoods. The modern world is overflowing with noise, opinions disguised as truth, distractions disguised as success, trends disguised as wisdom. A wise woman filters what enters her heart. She does not allow social media, gossip, or worldly standards to define her worth or dictate her thoughts. She feeds her mind with what elevates her, what purifies her, what brings her closer to truth. She knows that her thoughts are seeds, and so she plants those that produce peace and clarity, not confusion. A woman who seeks knowledge is never stagnant. She knows that her mind, like a garden, must be tended daily. She reads to feed her intellect, reflects to deepen her understanding, and applies what she learns to transform her life. She knows that knowledge without action is vanity, and action without reflection is blindness. Every piece of knowledge she gains becomes a tool for compassion, a means of service, and a step toward wisdom. She learns not to boast, but to benefit others, to share what she knows, to lift those who walk beside her. Seeking knowledge also means seeking self-awareness. A woman of wisdom studies her emotions, her reactions, her patterns. She asks herself hard questions. Why do I feel this way? What lesson is life trying to teach me? What truth am I avoiding? This form of learning is not found in classrooms. It is found in solitude, in reflection, in honest self-confrontation. She becomes a student of her own heart, understanding that the greatest knowledge is not what fills the mind, but what frees the soul. This habit also shapes her faith. A woman who seeks divine knowledge does not follow blindly. She seeks understanding. She studies her beliefs deeply, asks sincere questions, and finds joy in uncovering spiritual truths. She knows that faith grows through knowledge, through knowing the nature of her Creator, through understanding the purpose of her trials, through learning how to live with intention and devotion. Her learning becomes a form of worship, her understanding a form of love. A woman who seeks knowledge learns to embrace change. She is not afraid of being corrected, because correction is growth. She welcomes new perspectives, not to abandon her identity, but to refine her understanding. She listens to voices different from her own, finding wisdom even in disagreement. She knows that the humble learn from everyone, while the proud learn from no one. In her humility, she finds expansion. In her openness, she finds truth. Knowledge empowers a woman to make wise decisions. It gives her discernment to recognize manipulation, to avoid repeating mistakes, to protect her peace. It teaches her that wisdom is not in knowing everything, but in knowing what to let go of, what to hold on to, and what to rise above. The more she learns, the less she needs to prove. The more she understands, the quieter she becomes. She speaks less but says more. Her presence becomes her influence. Because knowledge has refined her energy and shaped her perspective. This habit of seeking knowledge turns ordinary living into meaningful existence. It helps a woman walk through life not as a follower of trends, but as a seeker of truth. It teaches her to value time, to prioritize learning over entertainment, depth over distraction, understanding over appearances, and in doing so, she becomes rich, not in possessions, but in wisdom, which no one can take from her. When a woman commits to lifelong learning, she continues to evolve. She does not fear age, because with every season she gains new insight. She does not fear failure, because every mistake becomes a lesson. She does not fear solitude, because reflection becomes her teacher. Her knowledge transforms her from within. It polishes her spirit, strengthens her purpose, and lights her path. She becomes both student and teacher, learning from life and guiding others with what she's learned. A woman who seeks knowledge daily becomes a woman of depth, dignity, and discernment. She carries herself with quiet confidence, not because she knows everything, but because she knows how to keep learning. Her mind is sharp, her heart is open, her soul is awake. And wherever she goes, she spreads light, not by preaching, but by living her truth with wisdom, grace, and understanding.